All that walk in front of your team. You were able to get the other one, right?
Yeah, I just haven't like started.
Okay, it's hard to say.
I'm trying to balance open hands with closed fists on the other side. I'm not sure which one I'll go first. Well, we need to all learn as much as we can. I'm not sure this is the proper reaction.
Excellent. Thanks very much for being here, everybody. I'm Chad Graff, founder of ArtBank. My wife and partner, Joanne Falkenberg, co-founder, is also here. A few thank yous to start. M&B Bank supplied our sound system. Lumen Beer has provided, they're a brewery in Omaha, well known in South Omaha, and they provided beer for us. There are two different IPAs, a slice, and things to sample afterwards. Art-Type Coffee from Omaha has been providing our coffee. Carniceria CB's bringing over some tacos at 3. Brigham Larrington's here recording us. Fatima Rodriguez Hernandez, our lead intern, continues to help in all sorts of ways as she starts her senior year of high school. And a special shout out to the Red Willow Tourism Committee. If you look in the back, or you hang out in the back, there are 12 Berlin picnic tables and 24 benches that arrived a couple weeks ago that the Tourism Committee helped supply for us. I'm honored to welcome Christopher Prinz here today for an artist talk and conversation. Christopher's an artist based in Omaha with work in prestigious venues all around the world. On a trip he took to Paris, we went and saw an amazing table he created that's at the Louis Vuitton flagship in Mayfair in London, which is as prestigious a place as you could possibly be. He's educated at one of the country's most prestigious art schools, the Rhode Island School of Design. Grew up in Omaha. Our connection with Christopher dates back 5 years. And a mutual friend of ours, Chris Hughes, who's the founder of Artifact Bags in Omaha, introduced us. Chris Hughes was one of our early supporters. And he just had people, he come and visited us in Oakland and visited Creative Growth with us and sort of knew what our passion was and came and visited the 6th floor, and he just really wanted me to meet Christopher and his dad, Tom Prinz, and to say that they've been a vital part of what we've been able to accomplish on the 6th floor and at the ArtBank is really an understatement. John Thiene's series on Wounded Knee really came here because of Tom Prinz. Tom Prinz introduced me to John Thiene when John Thiene was nearing the end of his life and looking for a place for that whole series of work to go and be kept together. And so Tom introduced me to John, and that started the series of conversations that helped that work end up here. I met Christopher in the most sort of vivid way through visiting his artist studio, which is located in a garage on the back of a gallery in the Benson neighborhood. And for a passionate art collector like me, that's sort of one of the best experiences you can have, is to go into an artist studio and see where the work is made, kind of where the raw energy comes from. And his studio is mind-blowing. I mean, just the size of the machinery that he's working with as a solitary person to make his sculptures is overwhelming to think about. I mean, the machine must be twice his height. You know, and it's massive, and I think you ended up having to enlarge the studio to fit the machine. And then I think one of the earliest experiences was sort of seeing his finished work, but also then kind of being invited into his back room and seeing his prototypes, which were pieces that didn't sort of make his finished release, so to speak. And for me, there's an immediate like love affair with seeing an artist process and seeing how they sort of go from the flat sheet to the sculpture and the editing and the structural testing and all those things. And so I really saw those prototypes in the same way I saw the 6th floor or the Morrison building as something I really wanted to be kept together and to be able to provide an opportunity to be immersed in a space or in an artist process. And so I started a discussion with him then about just sort of being fair in a way of acquiring all those prototypes so that we could bring them over to the 6th floor where many of them normally are, and to just sort of have his trust to be able to hold on to those, to be able to show his process. And so that's how those prototypes ended up here, and they're very much a signature part of our spaces. Let's see, what else would I say? So I think what I'll do is just ask Christopher some questions and invite him to tell us a little bit about his background and process and what he's doing right now. And then I'll also invite you to ask any questions that you might want to have, and then we'll have an opportunity to visit with him individually afterwards. Yeah. So I guess I would start with just saying, tell us a little bit about your background as an artist, sort of your growing up, how you came to art making.
Yeah, sure. So my dad is an artist, so I guess I started thinking about art and seeing art from like a really young age. And I kind of like lightly pursued it throughout the course of my upbringing. And then in high school, took art classes. I mean, I wasn't like doing it necessarily in my free time. But then in college, I started thinking about it more seriously, started taking more art classes, and then kind of realized it wasn't really for me. And so I started at University of Nebraska, Omaha, kind of knocking out gen eds and taking art classes, and then switched to study industrial design out at the Rhode Island School of Design. And then so I started to pursue that. And then after school, I was working, doing kind of like fabrication work, more on the industrial design side, and then kind of started to take up art again in my free time on the side, and then eventually kind of switched, kind of found a happy ground meeting in between in functional art. And then eventually that kind of took precedence over my job. I got busy enough where I was able to leave my work and focus on this more full time. That was probably in 2017, 2018, when I made the transition. And so I've been doing, I guess, art since, even though it's not, it's more than just art, it's design and engineering and whatnot, So.
Tell us what you're doing here. Like, what are these, and how do they inform your process?
These pieces. So this is kind of how my process starts. So this is foil. It's like artist foil, it's called. It's not tin foil, it's a little bit thicker. But I'm able to kind of model things and envision the process of how to actually produce something kind of using this foil technique I developed. So this is kind of how I sketch. Because you have to there's a lot of like planning that is involved in producing the work, just because you have to figure out how to execute it. Like the material, it's thin steel, relatively thin steel, but it gets incredibly rigid, and it's not. It can be difficult to form it how you want it. You have to gain leverage on it, make tools and dies and all that. And so this kind of just helps me figure out how I'm going to do it, and maybe what might be difficult. It translates pretty surprisingly well, actually.
The shapes. Tell me about the shapes. Like, what do you? Where that's coming from?
The shapes, they're very like, I guess they have very practical origins. Pretty much everything has to start as like a flat sheet. So, like a stool, like you start with a blank, and then you have to form it. And so, a lot of the shapes revolve around that, but then also more practicalities, like where are the sharp edges going to be? How can I mitigate that? How can I achieve something that looks like it's, pretty effortless and simple and not like contrived, and as if it were literally just made out of foil. And then how can you make it rigid, and how can you conceal the structure if you need it? That's kind of important to me. Like the purity of the shape, I guess.
Yeah. There seems like there's some natural elements in the shapes as well. I mean, I know you like to spend a lot of times outdoors, and you spend time in sort of remote parts of Nebraska. Does that inform your work?
Yeah, no doubt. More so lately, I guess. But, yeah, I'm trying to look for any like specific natural. It'll come. But.
Materials. Like, what are you thinking about in terms of materials, and why is kind of steel the preferred finishing material?
Steel, I mean, a number of reasons. I started working with sheet metal in school in my early 20s, I guess. And I was just impressed by it because, you can go to the hardware store and buy it, and it's steel supplier, it's everywhere. But it's like literally the same material they're using to go to the bars with. Like it's just so versatile. And it's really easy to get started working with it. Like you don't need a ton of tools and equipment, and just a grinder and a cheap welder. So it's just really easy to get going with it. And it's pretty relatively quick to work with, which was big for me. This work is more or less born out of I was asked to do a show in Omaha, but I was kind of time constrained. Like I didn't have a lot of time to develop a body of work for it, and so I kind of just had to just pick up something and run with it. And I chose sheet metal. This is kind of what I ended up with.
One of the things that moved me sort of seeing your work early on is I just felt this incredible resonance with Dan Miller's work, in terms of his language on paper. And here's an artist who's nonverbal, and if you watch him work, there's almost a fury in his putting down of words and layering of words on top of each other. And I think the rapport that your raw pieces had with that was just like, oh, we have to do this. How does the marking happen?
Yeah, so the marking, so I guess originally I was thinking about this way of working, like wrinkling, as like a form of manufacturing. if that makes sense, like a different process, manufacturing process. But it's interesting because the wrinkles strengthen and rigidize the material. It's like a corrugation, but in every direction. So the material gets like really strong and rigid the more you wrinkle it. But also when you wrinkle it, it's very organic. Like the way I was thinking about it, it's cool because each piece is unique. Like it has its own wrinkle because it's like a very organic process. But it's like repeatable as well. So it's like a way to produce like bespoke pieces in like a more manufactured setting. So that was kind of the original idea behind the wrinkling, was a way to, kind of rigidize the material, but also have it be super organic.
So each piece ends up being completely unique.
Yeah. Even though I make many, many stools in the same size and the same shape, each one has its own unique texture to it. And you can manipulate it in many ways. I mean, you can wrinkle really densely, kind of like the chair Q's sitting on. Like in the front, there's like a density to the wrinkles, whereas the colorful one next to it, it's like fewer wrinkles that are a little deeper. So yeah, you can kind of dial it in where you want it to be a little stronger, more varied.
Where does the color come from?
So the color is electroplated on. That's the only piece of the process I don't do. So there's the multicolored one, and there's a blue one over there. That one's also plated. That all gets done in Chicago. Actually, there's a plating supplier there that does that for me. But it's interesting because like the lamp there, the mini bulbs, that's yellow zinc. So that's an industrial finish. Like the color is just a byproduct of it. They don't optimize it for the color, they optimize it for its corrosion resistance. So somehow they allow me to use their process, and literally like that lamp goes on the same line as suspension components for GM cars. So it's kind of, they might do 1 million of those parts, and this one's going by on too. But
So is it you've already made it and then did the coloring?
yeah, that's the
Okay.
last piece of it.
Okay.
Yep. And then the shiny ones, the cube right there, that's polished stainless steel, so that's not plated. That's just manually, mechanically finished.
You mentioned your work kind of being a hybrid of art and design, and why functional sculpture? Like, what's propels you to undertake that idea?
I really like the constraints of function, like having to work around the constraints, having it support the person. That's like really valuable to me. It seems like a lot of my best ideas kind of like are figuring out how to do that. But also, I guess more practically, the design art space is much smaller than the art, like the design art world is much smaller than the art world. And so felt like it was easier to make a splash. And I think it's also just really cool to live with functional artworks, them not just on the wall, but you're actually interacting with them. So there's several reasons to.
In terms of your career, would you talk a little about sort of your maybe some artists or designers who've influenced you Prinz hired you, and I know both of us sort of spent time with the Charles Ray sculpture that's in front of the Bourse de Commerce in Paris. He's one of my favorite artists, and we were moved by what he had done with steel.
I mean, I guess I would say most of my inspiration comes from the manufacturing world. So, like, just different manufacturing processes, different materials. I watch a lot of YouTube manufacturing stuff. But I love when artists like work with manufacturers and industry to produce artworks. Like Charles Ray, that sculpture Chad's referring to is a massive stainless steel horse that was machined. It's probably a solid chunk of stainless steel. So artists like Charles Ray are influential for me. I mean, Jeff Koons too. He works with a lot of incredible craftspeople. So yeah, I guess that intersection of where art and industry meet is really where I find a lot of inspiration.
One of the things I think early in on our projects and meeting you and seeing your work and just being really, really moved by the phenomenal sort of beauty of what you're doing, I was just like, oh, we have to like figure out how to keep artists like you in Nebraska. And could you talk a little bit about what it's like to be a contemporary artist in Nebraska?
Yeah, it's you know, I'm kind of of two minds about it. Like, part of my inspiration for being in Nebraska is just, you know, access to space. And you can make like really ambitious work here. Generally, people are pretty supportive. Like, I've gotten a lot of help through like industry people in Omaha. So that's been really nice. I guess you know, there's not a huge market for it in Nebraska for contemporary art. So, you know, most of my market is on either of the two coasts. So I always wonder, you know, would I have been better off like being closer to the market, closer to the press? You know, like getting pressed by work is like really important. Like it really, that's like how your price point is established. Basically, like there's like a 1-to-1 ratio between like how much you can charge for what you do and how much people are talking about it. So yeah, it's a split, but I mean I was able to make a go of it, so it worked.
What was it like to be at RISD?
I mean, are people familiar with RISD? Well, it's the Rhode Island School of Design, and it's our nation's oldest art school, basically. And it's in Providence, Rhode Island. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Like I literally wouldn't have rather have been anywhere else. It's like hard to maybe relate that, but it was like really formative for me because it's, you know, Providence it was like a craft capital. There's a huge jewelry making industry there, like tons of woodworking. Like there's just a focus on craft there. And then RISD was started to train craftspeople for industry. And so it's a very craft-based program in school. And very traditional too, like you start out and everyone does a foundation year and they all take the same classes and then they transition into a major for the remaining 3 years. So you focus on your major for 3 years. there's just a heavy emphasis on actually making and using traditional craft, and I hadn't really experienced much craft before that. And so it was amazing to just be so hands-on with materials and processes. And also, it's an art school, but there's also design. So I was more on the design side, but most of my friends were on the art side. So it's cool to experience both, have them inform each other.
Do you have a cohort of friends from there that you keep in touch with and continue to share work and ideas?
Yeah, definitely. I have several friends. It's the school is really intense. Like you're on 24/7 in your studio, and so you really get to form like good relationships with people because everyone's there all the time. So I've kept in touch with lots of people. It's been great.
Let's talk a little bit about the body of work here. Like, how many years of your career is represented in front of us?
My entire career. Like those stools. Maybe my earliest piece here would be that kind of like rusty bench on its side. That might be the oldest one. So that was probably like 2015, something like that, 10 years ago. And then probably my most recent piece is that copper one in the back, the coffee table. That one I did last year.
What are you doing with the forms? I mean, sometimes I see the form ending up as a table leg. Sometimes the piece that Lisa's standing in front of it's an entire lamp. Like, tell us a little bit about like how the form goes into the piece.
Like you're talking more specifically about the twisted form there, or just like yeah. So that was just a process I was experimenting with, probably starting in 2020, where you're able to kind of create these twists just by spinning the tubes together. And I guess the two lamps there, those are tubes that are twisted. They're hollow, which was quite a challenge to do because they want to collapse. But the idea, I guess, behind that was you could run electrical through it, which the electrical's running outside of it because that was a prototype there. And then it's a cool form, it's a cool technique. So I made some table legs out of it, like that table right there, and then that other one.
I want to know a little bit about the standard he built himself too. So I have this really like vivid memory of walking with him around his studio, and so the lamp with the twist, was hanging on the back of the studio. And I said, "Well, what's wrong with this?" And he says, "Oh, I went a twist too far." And I said, "Okay, so I want it. The name of it's Twist Too Far." And then the bench over there, behind the iridescent gold one, I said, "Well, what's wrong with this bench?" And he said, "Oh, I cut it an inch too short." I said, "Okay, it's an inch too short. I want it." It was unreal. So let's sort of fast forward to kind of the present moment. Like, what are you excited about in your current moment in terms of your art and design practice? What are you working on?
So I guess the most current work would be the giant bubble form over there. So like you all know this or not, but 2024 was like a really tough year for artists. Like sales were really down across the board. So I wasn't very busy, and I was kind of thinking how I can generate some revenue, and so I applied for a public art piece. They're building a new library in Omaha, and and they wanted some local artists to install work, so they did a request for proposals. So I submitted an idea, and they liked it. So that's what I've been working on for probably the past year at this point. And so that bubble piece there, that's the prototype for that project. And there'll be probably about 15 of those of varying sizes arrayed on the roof at the library in Omaha. But yeah, that's kind of where my mind is at these days. I mean, that's obviously a different way of working. Leveraging laser cutting machines, computational design. The wrinkled work is like incredibly manual. It's like really a lot of hammering, like basically wrestling with metal all day. It really takes it out of you. So this way of working was is more of an attempt to kind of leverage machines for the hard work, and then I can, maybe spend a little more of my day hammering a little less.
So take us through the process a little bit in terms of like what we see in terms of the materials and prototypes in front of us and how they inform the creation of the prototype.
Sure. So I guess like starting from the beginning, the library itself, the design of it is very modular. So like there's tons of different windows. It like looks like it's made up of like a million different pieces that come together. And so the design team kind of did that because they wanted to kind of represent the nature of the project. It was like a very grassroots effort to build the library. It was like a bunch of people came together and like worked really hard to make it happen. So that like informed the design language that they used. And so I kind of wanted to accent that with my proposal. I thought they'd like hearing that too. So I proposed these bubble forms because bubbles kind of, when they merge together, they get stronger because they're able to spread out their surface tension. And so that speaks to the idea of synergy, where things are stronger together. Like they're more powerful than the sum of their parts put together. So I wrote all about that and produced this bubble sculpture, and then they originally I had it inside, and it was going to be hanging from the ceiling, and then they proposed that we put it on the roof and have it be outside. Completely different than but it's okay. I ran with it. And so just working within the constraints of it being subjected to 100+ mile-an-hour winds on a roof on 72nd and Dodge, which is the main intersection in Omaha. There's just a lot of constraints I had to work around, and so I was able to develop this process to produce them to last outdoors and be strong. But it all starts, I use a program called Rhino. It's a 3D modeling program. And then I have many different scripts I wrote, basically code that takes a 3-dimensional form, divides it up into small triangles, and then you literally unroll the shape so that all the parts can be made flat. Kind of like and then riveted together into those forms. So,
When's the anticipated completion date?
March, which I'm just now getting started, so it's going to be a difficult few months. And
Come to Paris in April.
I will be. So,
Let me open it up. Are there questions out there? Things people want to know that I haven't asked?
Is that when the library's supposed to open too?
March, yeah.
We've been driving by, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Has, or did COVID affect your pricing for your steel or tariffs or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, steel has gotten a lot more expensive. You know, I don't feel it so much because I don't use a ton of material. So you know, it doesn't affect me a whole lot. But I guess it did for the library project because, you know, I gave them all my pricing last year. I mean, since then, now for a while here, we had 150% tariffs. So, but I think it's calmed down a bit. I got some pricing recently that seemed okay. So I was thankful for that.
So do you always use raw metal, or do you ever repurpose metal that's been in another form?
Yeah, I want to do more repurposing. And that was kind of some part of the original idea, was to use more repurposed metal. But I started producing the work, and then, you know, you make a work, and then someone pays money for it, and then you have to ship it to wherever they are. Like, it almost has to be perfect. Because you just can't risk them being like, what's this blemish, or what's this scratch? So I have to get like, it wasn't the original, originally I didn't set out to have it be this refined, but like, literally I have to remove every single scratch. So yeah, it's all super premium virgin material at this point, right now.
Do you,
How go ahead.
do you ever try to like wrinkle something like this the exact same way? Like mark your wrinkles out, or?
Yeah, I haven't ever done that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be very possible, but it'd be a lot of work. I mean, the wrinkling process, like, I'm using a press brake machine, which is a big press with like a linear die, and the press just goes up and down 8 inches. But for every time you bend it, you have to bend it back. So it's actually not, you have to bend it back and then rotate it, and it kind of does its own thing. So it'd take some diligence to do it, but you probably could. But you could wrinkle it in a different way, I think using a rolling die or something like that.
Oh.
You know, which I've thought about, but it'd be incredibly expensive to produce. To, you know, wrinkle anything of any thickness.
Yeah.
What are some other tools and machines that you use? I heard you say the brake, rivet machine, laser engraver.
Yeah.
What else?
I'll use a CNC router sometime for dies. I have several different presses, like an H-frame press. I have a custom press I made that is more like a platen press, I guess. And then, you know, a lot of polishing equipment. I have to make a lot of tools. And, you know, bending dies. I use a lot of pry bars, a lot of hammers, a lot of grinders. mostly TIG welded.
How did your piece end up being in Louis Vuitton? How did they get to you?
They found me through my gallery that I worked with in New York. There's an architect, Peter Marino. Louis Vuitton did 3 flagships that year, new flagships around the world, one in London, one in Seoul, Korea, and one in Sydney, and they hired Peter Marino to do them all. And one of their designers found me and approached me, and I made work for every single one of those stores.
So you said your father Tom is an artist. Is he similar art, or is he completely different?
Gosh, I mean, that's a good question. He works with different materials, primarily paper, but he works very abstractly. He's an artist, but he's also an architect. And he stopped his architecture practice a long time ago. So I would kind of saw a lot of art and architecture, and I kind of landed somewhere in the middle. So yeah.
So in a way, you've kind of gone down a similar path, but with a different material.
Yep. Pretty much.
Don't we have, aren't some of your father's pieces here?
Yeah.
That back there?
That's Steve Joy. That's a friend of ours. But one of my dad's pieces is above the couch there. And then there's another one back there in the back. It's hidden in the column. Yeah, he's got several ones.
The white piece to the right of the teller windows is his, but also make sure to go into the small cinema room, and you'll see this incredible yellow piece that he just brought to us on Thursday. He came for Christopher's opening on Thursday. And then as you go to the outdoor space in back, the piece to the right is another piece that he just brought to us. And both Christopher and his father are really overwhelming in their generosity. And I just have to say thank you so much for your participation in what we're doing. You're so much a part of it. And from designing the sign for Norris Alley to the lamps for here, to installing the lamps from here, to trusting us with your prototypes. It's incredible. Any other questions?
I have one. So the pieces that are displayed on this flat material here, is that what you start with? Or no, that's just.
The flat material? No, I don't generally start with that. I mean, that is just standard stainless steel, but it's called number 4, so it has a linear polish to it. And I haven't ever used it, just because when I fabricate a piece, I have to put a new polish on it at the end. And that would be hard to do if it already has a polish. So I haven't ever used it. But maybe for a prototype where I don't care about the sophistication, if I have some lying around, I'll use it.
And one more time again, how do you get it so shiny? That cute piece?
Yeah, so that's just mechanically polished. So that starts out as steel that looks similar to what Q's sitting on, one of the benches there. It has a light orange peel finish, it's called, if that makes any sense. Like just a dimpled, comes straight from the mill when it's made. And then you have to polish it grit by grit from, I probably start as low as 120 grit or lower, and then all the way up to 1500 grit or higher. Just making scratches that are smaller with each successive pass. It's an incredible amount of work. And it's a dying art. So that particular piece, the cube, I actually had there's a polisher at
The same with the bubbles?
The bubbles actually, that material, so this is what so I'm able to source factory polished stainless. So it looks like that. So it comes pre-polished in a factory setting, and then I'm able to maintain that polish with its laser cut. So this is what the material looks like when it comes out of the machine. And then I have to clean it up a little bit, but it's fine.
So it's almost like your work is as much a manufacturing process as it is an art process.
Yeah, definitely. I'm using a lot of the same techniques and ideas they do in the industry.
Did you have to make a lot of changes to your plan once the library said, hey, we want it to be outside the material, or even when you're thinking about the longevity of it, like birds pooping on it and hail, does that become part of the evolution of the piece, or do you try and prevent it as you're making it?
Yeah, so I basically had to use stainless steel. So it really limited my material palette. And then, yeah, you have to think about drainage and even though it's going to be on the roof, there's still salt in the air. There's a lot of salt on 72nd and Dodge. So I haven't ever really done anything like it, so I hope I'm making the right decisions. I'm setting myself up, I think, to have it last. But yeah, going from free hanging, to then being supported on a roof that we cannot penetrate the membrane of. So basically be floating on the roof, which requires a lot of ballast weight. And so, yeah, the posts will be bolted to these like big steel ballast rings, and then it'll hopefully be hidden and concealed under the roof has rock on it, ballast rock. So the hope is to have all of the kind of practical parts of it concealed, so it's just as much bubble as we can get.
When I saw your pieces for the first time, I thought of paper, and you make it look so effortless, like you just took paper and wadded it up, and then this is what you get. And so the fact that there's so much intensive work that goes into it, for how effortless it looks, is amazing to me.
I'm glad it was perceived that way, because that's kind of what I go for. Matthew?
For the smaller models, are those all hand formed, or do you like have some method of the process that you'll use like a tiny little press or a stapler or something?
No, I haven't gone that far.
So that's like part of the translation is like something that like sounds like that feels like it's crushed up by hand using massive machine.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of picture like hackering or something.
Yes, yes.
Baking them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, that.
Is that the size of what will be on the library, or will they be bigger?
Yeah, they'll be different sizes. So some will be larger, some will be smaller. That's about as high as they'll be off the roof. I'm working with an engineer, and so I have to define some parameters.
Can you make a few mistakes along the way so we can?
Well, I mean, that one I won't be able to use, so.
Yeah, it looks so- and they'll all be that color, like they'll all be the. That's gonna be so pretty.
Well, Thursday, when they were out in front of the building, it was bright, it was a hot and sunny day, and the reflection pattern on the ground wasn't
which I made that prototype and I was able to take it and put it on the roof and then kind of have the art committee kind of get some of the notes. And it looked really good. Like, I don't really know how it would look just on rock, but it was actually enhanced it because it reflected all the rock back and it just looked wild. So it was kind of a win.
Do you know will it be lit at night?
I don't have any, I'm not designing lighting for it. They probably have something, but I actually probably should touch base with them on that.
Amazing, thank you. I want to quickly introduce as well two artists who are also here. Quentin Fortney is here. His work is a series from Alaska, the photographs from Alaska upstairs. Quentin grew up in Lincoln, yeah, and is still based in Lincoln. And Matthew Nelson Love is here as well. He's a recent transplant from North Carolina, living in Omaha now, and he has work in the room next door to Quentin's and custom t-shirts up there. And the work from the artists at the work at the camp are on display in the cafe. So make sure if you haven't seen those to check those out. They're quite compelling.
Quentin just won a Nebraska Book Award too. So,
Rodeo Cowboy. And please hang out. There's again beer from Lumen, rosé wine. Make sure to check out the outdoor space, and tacos will be coming too. So hang out and talk to the artists and enjoy their work.
Yeah, I guess maybe one last thing. In many ways, I owe my career to an artist that was a resident at Bemis in Omaha, Doug Johnson. He came to Omaha, saw my work at a show, and then showed a gallerist in New York. And then they invited me to show with them, and then that really built my career. But that was important for me to say because, the Bemis brings in artists from outside of the community and then creates a dialogue, and I think maybe that's a kind of an important piece of ArtBank. Like, sure, you're showing an artist from out of town, but you never know what connections might happen. And then for me, at least, it defined my career. So, I guess one thing to be thankful for about this place.
Cool, and I think we're one Nebraska sitting here. I mean, you're someone who grew up in Omaha, I'm someone who grew up in McCook, and we've sort of found each other for our love for art and design and wanting to bring that to people.
I think it's kind of interesting there was an article in the World Herald today, I don't know if you saw it or not, about how McCook is much more than, because it's gotten so much publicity recently with the ICE detention facility. It's how much more McCook is, and it talks a lot about the burgeoning art scene, and of course this wouldn't be possible without you sharing your artwork and other artists sharing their artwork